Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 4 of the Bootcast podcast. I'm your host, Justin. I'm with my co-host, as always, Colby. Colby, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man. We're still here.
I was going to say,
Number 4?
4 is pretty good. I feel like people have already teared off before episode 4.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're crushing it.
That's right, dude. We get to 10, you get to 50, 100, and we just keep going.
Well, let's just try to get to 5. I feel like that needs to be our next goal.
Yeah.
So quick heads up, guys. Still a little sick, so doing better. But if I still sound terrible, I apologize. Okay, can't help it. All right. So since this is episode 4, we're gonna start off the same way we did last week. Colby, favorite number 4 of all time.
Oh, jeez, dude. Don't make me pick another Liverpool player.
Please, for the love of God, just think outside of the box.
I'm thinking.
There's so many.
Dude, Virgil van Dijk is just screaming in my head right now.
Dude, okay, this is not even me being a United fan. He is one of the most over-fucking-rated players I've ever seen.
Dude, who's the Everton goalkeeper? What's that guy's name?
Jordan Pickford?
Yes. Freaking took his knees out, dude. It's not his fault. He's like a step behind now. But he would have had like 2 more good years had he not torn his ACL.
Dude, people compare him to John Terry and Rio Ferdinand.
Their longevity was probably a bit more. John Terry played till his legs fell off.
Virgil has literally won 1 Champions League and 1 league. In his dynasty, the Liverpool dynasty, 1 Prem, bro.
See, but the thing is, like, John Terry had a really huge supporting cast around him for years and years and years because Roman Abramovich could just fund that Chelsea team, essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing with Virgil van Dijk is he was like the missing piece to what we needed to actually come back like into a competitive Premier League against Man City, against Chelsea. I don't want to say United because y'all have been off for like 10 years now. But just to be in that talking point, and then we get Alisson, and then boom. Like, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Alisson is arguably y'all's best player still. Like, I think that's the greatest signing for y'all. Not ever.
Yeah, I mean, who are the other number 4s? Like, are you going to go Sergio Ramos? Like,
yeah. Serial winner, bro. Scumbag.
Total shoulder dislocator. Freaking.
Listen, what did he do? He defended the goal. Okay? He did his job. And Salah was just an unfortunate casualty, obviously.
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
But I'm sorry. It's Ramos, bro. Or another good one, isn't Patrick Vieira number 4? I don't even like Arsenal, but I respect Patrick Vieira.
It's a good 4.
I'm a Roy Keane guy.
Yeah, once we start, I feel like the low numbers, I'm like having to think too much. Like once we get into like the 10s, you know, like the 9s, 10s, 11s, the 8s,
the easy number, the 7s,
the easy, 7s.
Where
it's
everyone
obvious.
in history has worn it.
We're gonna be scraping around here, but
You're gonna be
exactly.
like, please get to episode 66 just so I can shout out Trent. Yes. Please let me shout out Trent.
Shoot, we're gonna be like getting academy players from like 30 to 100. Because
I was gonna say some of them I don't know. Like the only, there's always some players that had weird numbers.
Dude, it's getting weirder. Like Declan Rice, 41.
41,
Phil Foden,
yeah.
47.
47.
What is this?
John
like
Terry was 26.
Balotelli was like 85 or something like that.
He was 45 for a while too.
45.
He was 45. I remember when R9 was 99. I think at AC Milan.
Yeah, something like that. It's just, to me, it's just like let's just keep the numbers, you know, under 30. That's all I'm asking.
Do you miss like the old, like, depending on what position you played, that meant that's the number you're gonna get, or do you not care about that?
I kind of care. I feel like it would be, you know, when commentators are like, "Oh yeah, he's like a traditional like number 6 or number 9," you know what I mean? Like, and then like I feel like I know what they're talking about, but maybe not everybody knows what they're talking about, you know? Or you have to kind of guess what you're there. But roles are getting. Here's what I'll say: is roles are getting so different now in the world of like modern day football, like what Pep has. What's his face? John Stones do, or what Klopp has, Trent Alexander-Arnold do. It's like, okay, what is that actually considered? Like, you're a right back or you're a center back, but you're also kind of shifting into the midfield. And like, this is a boot podcast. I don't want to get too much into like soccer,
like tactics,
Premier League tactics.
Yeah. No, that's what I definitely agree. Like I always say that nowadays it's not about what position you play; it's about what role you play. Because you can line up, like for example, Salah lines up on the right wing, but he's kind of a striker. Like he's an inside forward. He's a striker.
That's kind of Liverpool. That was the like Liverpool method with Firmino, was to try to like kind of anybody in that front lineup could score goals, and that like that top role, that like kind of center forward role, just kind of facilitates to the wings if like if he can. So
Yeah, for sure.
know. It's just changing. It's changing all the time.
All right, cool. Okay, so we're gonna play a game today. Well, it's kind of a game, but we played a game. So I sent out a message to everybody on Instagram and was just like, "Hey, send me your top 10 boots of all time." I said, "I don't care about your colorway. I don't care about your special memories. I don't care why you like the boot. If you actually wore, I don't care about any of that. I just want to know, like, if you took a moment, you stopped, and you said, okay, from 1 to 10, here's my list of my top 10 boots." And I specifically told people you have to put them in order, because how the game works is first place, you get 10 points. Second place, you get 9 points. Third place, you get 8 points, so on and so forth, down to the 10. And so depending on where people ranked these boots would affect where they ended up on the total outcome list. Does that make sense so far? Are you keeping up with me?
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, okay. So it's just a cumulative score. So between the two of us, and then we had 12 other people contribute, man. We had, I'm just going to say their Instagrams. We had Lockhart Boot Blog, Substance Football, 17 Boots, Footloose Boots, Ricky P, 3417. We had Cleat Baron, 402 Footy Supplies, Will's Boot Room, X. Quetzalcoatl.x, Proper Boots, Boot Wizard Boot Reviews, and then GCFC Training, and along with ourselves. So how it works is basically I added all the boots up. So there was a list that everybody sent me, and there was 85 total boots between everybody. So there's no duplicates. You just add more points. So out of 140 total points, that's how I broke this list down. Cool?
Cool.
Okay, so yeah, so guys, like I said, the top 10 really ended up being a top 18 just because of ties and everything. So we're just going to talk a little bit about the boots, what you think, what I think, and maybe why they made this list, or if we just forgot them. Cool? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So joint number 10, we have the Nike Mercurial Vapor 10, and we have the Adidas Predator Power Swerve. They both got 13 points. So out of 140 points, they tied with 13.
I mean, what do you think, man?
Okay, so I think the Vapor 10, I know a lot of people like the 11, but the Vapor 10 to me might be one of the best, like, true Mercurials with that old school Tajin synthetic. It was mega light. The sole plate was really good too. It had a, I think it was a nylon fiber, so a lot more like the Phantom Venom, or no, I'm sorry, the Hyper Venom Phantom 1. So it's just kind of a flexible outsole, but it was also really, it could be rigid when you needed it. The fit was good. It was thin, and I think that's what a lot of people liked. It was thin, the micro texturing. It was just a really good boot overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Predator Power Swerve, to me, it's a classic, man. That's like one of the last, before the 30, to me, that's like one of the last true Predators. I think it was the last one with the fold-over tongue. It had that crazy awesome, like, shooting element on it. The leather was great. The colorways on that Predator, too, are top-notch. If you ever get a chance, man, you need to look up some of those Predator Power Swerves.
Mm-hmm.
And I also thought that was cool because that was around the time where Bex started, he had already been, I think he was like vegan or something. And so they started doing all the Beckham colorways in synthetic only. And they were using like Climacool, which I guess was like a prequel to Hybrid Touch. Yeah, you remember when they were like pushing Climacool?
Yes.
Your feet could breathe because he played in Galaxy and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I just that boot, I'm just telling you, like, even outside of just the Beckham colorways, that boot has a lot of good colorways. And if you ever get the chance to find a pair, you definitely need to wear that pair. Okay, so joint 9th was the Nike Mercurial Vapor 9, and then the Adidas Predator Addy Power, and they tied with 14 points. And I'm guessing you didn't wear either one of these again, did you?
I'm sorry.
Oh my god,
That's
dude.
why you're here. That's why you're here, man.
Okay, so Adidas Predator Addy Power. This is kind of like it's not the redheaded stepchild. It's definitely a weird boot among the Predator community. Some people absolutely love this Predator, like I know J Mike does, and I know that what's his name? striker for Arsenal and Man United, Van Persie.
Mm-hmm.
He was huge on this boot, and he used to wear like camouflage F50s and stuff to where it looked like this. But it was the last. I think this was the last Predator that had that bladed outsole, and that's the same outsole that they used on that Tony Cruz remake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So I know
exactly
people are a big
about.
fan of that sole plate. Again, it's not my favorite because I'm just like I like the tongue. I think I've said that before on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a big Predator with a tongue guy, and I kind of fell off the Predator at this point for a while. I think I was wearing T90s,
Mm-hmm.
and then Vapor 9. That Vapor, I didn't like it as much as the 8. I think the golf ball texture was kind of weird, and then later they tried to do like a faux leather.
Mm-hmm.
I will say though that is the most aggressive Vapor sole plate I think I've ever worn. It only had 2 massive studs in the back, all super thin blades. It had the glass fiber. It's a good boot, just not for me. Again, I think I've told you before, I don't like speed boots, so they're not my favorite.
I don't think either of us like speed boots.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, so now we have a 3-way tie for 8, and you're gonna hate all of these. Okay, so with 15 points, so they've gone up each, just gone up 1 point, 1 point, 1 point. So in 3-way tie for 8, we have the Nike Mercurial Vapor 3, the Nike Mercurial Vapor 11, and then the Nike Mercurial Vapor 15.
Dude, the Vapors basically took up the entire bottom half of the top 10.
I will say that the Vapors take up a lot of this list.
Yeah.
Why do you think that? I mean, I want to get into this a little bit because we don't have to break down every single boot, but the fact we do have to address that the Vapor is so popular among everyone, dude. No, I don't think anybody's list didn't have one Vapor on it. Why do you think that the Vapor is such a popular silo for everybody to rank it so, not even highly, but just even so regularly? Like everybody knows a Vapor.
Everybody knows a Vapor, and it's always going to be kind of they're not all the same, right? They all have different materials, different feels. We've gone through like really thin ones, like kind of more sock-like. Wasn't the 13 kind of more of like a sock style fit?
A lot of people like that one.
Yeah, so I'm shocked that 13's not higher. They might be higher on the list. I don't know what the list is. But that was like the only boot where it was the coolest boot for such a long time. It took a long time for the leather style boots to transition into looking the way they look now.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking like the mid 2000s Tiempos Predators, they still look like an old school boot. And if you look at the Vapors at that time, they were like the most modern looking boot, and they kind of modernized the T90 series, but it still looked kind of a little bit more bulky, a little bit like
The
Vapor
absolutely.
looks so sleek and just ready to go. And then they have like the poster child of peak Ronaldo, right? And so I think that's another reason. But what do you think, man?
I think that the Vapor is a prime example of marketing, just the perfect marketing, like machine. Like I think that the Vapor, especially like, because I mean the original, I don't even know if it's technically the Vapor, it's just a Mercurial, but the R9 boots, like everybody knows that R9 boot. And again, it was a synthetic at the time, a pretty terrible one, but it looked like a leather boot, but it was just bright. And I think that Nike realized, like, because again, we're old dinosaurs, almost everything was just black and white. And if you had a little bit of color, it was like, whoa. And then if you started getting more color, it was like, whoa.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, because the bases of so back in the day, a base for a boot, like you were outside of black, there wasn't much. I remember when I first saw like a pair of Puma Kings in white, I was like, oh my gosh, that's cool. But the first time I've ever seen just these vibrant, outrageous colors was like a yellow pair of Vapors, a silver pair of Vapors. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you could do that. So I think that was the very beginning of what we see now, that just modernized, like highlighter pink, highlighter yellow, just overall like insane colorways. That was the sort of beginning of it.
That's kind of what I was going to say. I was going to lead to was, with those bright boots, I think that they realize that it catches the eye. When everybody's wearing all black on the field and you can't really see. And I think that that's why the 2010 World Cup pack sticks out so much to people, is because like everybody was wearing kind of like these yellow, and then all the guys who wore Nike had the same color boots, that purple with the orange. And so I think when you do things like that, it really catches people's eyes, especially back then, like we were talking about, like young CR7, early or kind of peak R9 era, because it was R9, then the torch kind of got passed on to Cristiano. But I just think that boot is like, to me, the Mercurial and the Predator are kind of like the two boots, the boot silos that everybody is like, we got to figure out how the hell they did that. And I think even Nike looks at the Mercurial and is like, how the hell did we do this? Like, because they're trying, and I think that's why they don't want to give up on the name, like the Tiempo, because the Tiempo 10 is not, to me, it's not a legend. I think if they would have called it the Tiempo Touch or whatever, I think that would have helped that boot. But the fact that they kept it a legend, and the same thing with the Phantom, I feel like they think that they have this sort of history with that name, and they're trying to, I don't even want to say the Mercurial's lightning in a bottle, but it is. Like, it's just everything went, even the terrible Mercurials, people love.
It was a complete change in style. So everything that had come before it, and we're not talking like kind of how modern day, like revolutionary boots, because everything for the most part has kind of become homogenous in the boot market, and everything kind of does the same thing. And you have categories now, and that was the very first thing outside of like some classic leather, like those bulky conical studs. Like it's completely different, and they had it first. And so they just took that, and they were at a huge head start and just never stopped.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to put it. Just to kind of round it off, the Vapor 3, I think, has some of the best and like iconic colorways. Like we were talking before, but I love that Brazilian R9 pair that's like bright banana yellow with the green heel, the black Nike swooshes on the side. I think that's just a banger colorway. And they have a ton more. They had his white and gold ones. I think Cristiano wore the forest green with the white heel, and he was the only player.
Did they have the matching? They had the matching balls to go with those too, right? Like where it was kind of the dots going away. I feel like I remember those vaguely at the same time.
I think you're right. It's somewhere around there.
That was a baller pattern, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
and it's crazy too, because like something so simple like that, like a lot of people love, but now Nike just wants to slap the word Nike or Air or whatever the hell. It's like, we get it, okay? We get it. The Vapor 11, I can't wear that one. That one was so narrow. Even if I went half a size up, it just doesn't fit my foot. I know Matt Sheldon is a huge fan. Become Elite. He's a huge fan of those, and I know he buys a ton of pairs from Halt. Yeah, Halt will hunt for him for those. So there's got to be something to it. And then the Vapor 15. Again, I've only played with it a little bit. I have the R9 pair from the World Cup. But again, I'm just not a Vapor guy.
That's the most recent one, right? The 15?
Yeah, that's the current one.
That's the one that they have like the compressed air to give you that almost like rebound effect.
Yeah,
you know what the technology is.
Yeah, that's what they say. It's like what they use in the Air Max, but it's like a different application.
When that came out in this most recent generation, I think it was it last year, or maybe it was even 2022. I can't keep up with whenever things shift, but when they came out with that sole plate, they thought that they were going to put that technology into every single boot after that, and then they didn't. And I thought that was kind of weird, because it's like, hey, look, like it's almost like cheating, because you have this almost like this rebound effect when you're running. It's going to give you, it's not a rebound. I can't think what the exact word is now. But they thought that they were going to use that technology for every Nike boot after that, and they didn't. And now we've got the Lunasole plate. So
yeah, and so see, part of that too is I think that especially with Nike right now, they're really trying to make all three silos, and I commend them for this, because it's not always been this way, but all three silos very separate, and they all want them to each have like their own thing. Like I don't think a Vapor or Superfly is ever going to get grip knit. I don't think that the Tiempo or the GX Luna, the Phantom series, is going to get that air zoom bag. And then when it comes to the Tiempo, I mean, maybe that Fly Touch, that's that synthetic leather feel. I don't think that will go to the other. So I think that they're doing a really good job, because they've done in the past where a lot of their boots can feel almost the exact same. And so I do congratulate them on making that air zoom thing. for the Merc and only the Merc.
Yeah, that's a great point actually, and I hadn't thought of it like that. And it kind of makes me think of the Unisport video that came out today that you had sent me, where they were kind of going over basically like a lot of questions that we had in the last video about the Phantom GX2. He kind of the engineer there had kind of answered, and he said that with the grip technology, it was almost more complex. It was the most complex thing that they had ever worked on as a material, because they were so used to having. He said even with like an MI or a regular Tampa Legend 9, it's just like that's the material working with. And so they're really innovating and having to almost jump through hoops they set for themselves on, let's differentiate these boots and let's make sure that this doesn't feel like this, doesn't feel like this, kind of like you said.
Yeah, and I think, and we can talk about this after too, but I think that goes back to what we were talking about last week, where remember how I told you that the reason that they won't do remakes, specifically Nike, is because they're always trying to push the next thing. And I think that when he was talking about that with the whole grip knit, there was moments where he talked about where they had even realized they messed up with certain boots or certain parts of boots, and it was just like we just have to keep pushing. We got to push to the next thing. We have to figure this out and push to the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, totally makes sense.
Pretty interesting. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to, we have a tie for 7th, and they had 16 points each. We have you're gonna like both of these. I know you're gonna like these ones. Okay, we have the Nike Tiempo Legend 4, the Elite.
Yes.
And then we had the Adidas F50 leather remake. You know, that all white one on the ghosted sole plate.
Yeah.
So those were both tied for. Oh wait. Oh, there's a third tie. I'm sorry. Then also, this is the weird one. This one really surprised me. They have the Lotto Zero Gravity, also with 16 points, which is, I think, the first laceless boot ever.
Yeah. I can't say I've tried that one, but
I couldn't afford it back in the day, and anytime I've seen it in person, it literally just feels like a giant piece of rubber. So that's about it. People complain that the Predator Edge doesn't feel like a boot that can mold to your foot. That Lotto Zero Gravity would make the Predator Edge seem like a soft blanket over your feet, man. Predator Edge has nothing on that boot.
Did the Predator Edge make it on this list at all? That's what I want to know. Not to deviate too much, but we'll get back to these boots in a second.
I can't tell you, but we're at number 7.
Okay.
So it may still make an appearance. It has. It won't
make an appearance. I can guarantee you that. The Tiempo Legend 4.
Yeah, let's talk about the Legend 4.
Yes.
The Legend 4. Let's talk about the Legend 4 and the Legend 4 Elite.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I think this was when you were wearing boots, right?
Yeah, this is when I was wearing boots.
Okay, cool.
Okay, it's hard to know though, because anyway, the topic for another time. But like I said in the previous podcast, the one before, Tiempo Legend 3 really started to feel outdated, especially when you're lining it up next to the CTR and the Mercurial, right? So when they removed that tongue, and then I believe they added they added Kangalite elements to that boot as well, didn't they? Maybe around the midfoot.
I don't think that if the Legend 4 has anything, it might be by the Nike swooshes towards the back. But I think that one might be the last. I think that one might be the last true full leather.
Yeah,
I don't think that one has Kangalite, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so going back to Tiempo Legend 4. So that was the first boot that, like, when you remove that tongue, it just modernizes the boot, like so much more. I don't know what if it's aesthetics, if it's function, if it's just you remove that bulk and you actually feel like you can play a bit better. But that's how I felt. For some reason, I felt like when I slipped that boot on, it just felt way more modern. The sole plate was awesome. It wasn't like the conical studs we have now that are a little bit more, like, they're kind of shorter and they've got angled edges to them. It felt like a really stable ride, like, because you still had conical studs in the back. You didn't have the blades yet, but it felt awesome, dude. It felt like such a good boot. I still have them somewhere in my mom's house, I think.
Were you a bigger fan of the Legend 4, or were you like all buying into the Legend 4 Elite when they added all the fly wire, the carbon fiber sole plate?
I couldn't afford it, man.
Yeah,
I just had to go with the regular. Like,
yeah,
I would have loved to have tried the carbon fiber style, but
yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, I probably was in the same boat. I didn't wear Legends back then, so I can't really speak. I can only talk about just how they looked. Again, that's a class. Like my brain always goes back to when I think of the Legend 4, not necessarily the Elite, but the Legend 4. I always think of that, and I hate blue boots, but I always think of when they had that royal blue pair with the white swoosh, and Sergio Ramos, I remember, was wearing those all the time. And like
Yeah.
anytime I think of like to me, when I think of a Legend, man, the 4 is one of those ones that like my brain instantly goes into.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of people like the 5, 6, 7. You like the 8, but to me, like the 4 is like, gee.
The 4, the 4 was like a change in the aesthetics completely. It modernized the boot. See, you go to the Sergio Ramos one. I go to the there was a white one with gold and green that David Luiz had that I thought were just amazing. Like those were that was my favorite colorway. I don't think I had that colorway though. I had like a white, black, and orange, but I wanted the gold.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And let's talk about the leather F50 remake. Now, I don't have these boots yet. I'm still on the hunt for these boots. Yeah, I always say yet. You can never say never. But this is one of those remakes where I know it was kind of its own beast, and I know the boot has some issues overall. But this is a boot that I just think like absolutely killed it. The colorway killed it. Like everything they did with that boot, I think is like borderline perfect.
Yeah, a lot of pros started wearing these, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the 99 leather, where it's like a boot simplified, and it has exactly what you need, right? It's almost like you cut out all the technological fluff. Although the sole plate was awesome. That's a Speedflow sole plate, right?
Yeah. The ghosted in the Speedflow with the carbon fiber shank.
Yeah, so it's almost like you've got the responsiveness, and then you add the leather, and then you add the U-throat tongue. It's exactly what you need. And like honestly, they should just make. I wish Adidas would just make that silo, like just make that, which they kind of are trying to with the top end. It's Crazy Fast. I don't know why I can never think of that name. The top end Crazy Fast, but it's not the same.
Yeah, I think honestly I get looks wise because in some ways that boot is kind of just made for looks more so than anything. But I wish that it had the battle pack little like diamond shaped running all, and I know that a lot of big complaint was in the toe box where they put the actual leather that it was just that pattern wasn't embossed and it wasn't stitched in or anything. So I know that toe box was really notorious for overstretching like rather quickly and then becoming kind of sloppy. So I think that if they would have done some stitching right there, like as the pattern, if they would have stitched it, or even if they would have done, I think a cool thing that they could have did was what they did with the 11 Pro 3 and use almost like that cage system and use that as the support for the leather on the toe box. I think that boot would honestly be a lot higher on this list. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so number 6, no tie for number 6. Adidas Predator Absolute, which I think is one of the better Predator models, actually. I know this isn't everybody's favorite, but this is actually one of my favorite Predators. And you haven't worn them, have you?
I might have, actually.
This is one that they remade with the all-white backs, the gold Zidans.
Yes.
Have you worn them?
I haven't worn them. I had friends who had these. Yeah. So what's your experience with these, man?
Dude, I have the white Bex remakes. I think it's the Eternal Class Bex. I absolutely love this Predator. I think that this is a super underrated one. I think it looks cool, and I think that Predator feels great. Like it's really hard for me to speak poorly about it because so far I've had no issues at all. Now again, I know I've kind of mentioned it before, but I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s, so I wear my Predator tongue boots like Beckham did. So I don't use the top lace hole or anything. So lockdown isn't to me. I don't care like that about like you do. But the boot flares a little bit. It's wide, but I love the tongue. I mean, I just like everything about that boot. Like I have nothing bad to say about the Absolute.
I would hate to wear my boots like that, man. Like, I mean, sorry, this is another topic, but
Let's
just
talk about it.
imagining that, like the wide at the heel, and then you've got like the first lace hole. Like, I almost want that extra lace hole. You know how
Oh
Mizuno
God,
does
no.
sometimes, where you can pull it back, just like right on. I need my ankle completely locked in.
No,
Like wearing
dude.
your boots would drive me crazy.
It absolutely would, and I do have like moments where I'm like, if I kick this right, like my boot's gonna fly off. Like I definitely feel like I have those kind of moments.
You should never ever feel like that.
But I absolutely love wearing. It's like I said, it's just my Pred remakes, especially if they have the tongue. That's the only time. Any other boot, I'm using all the lace holes, but except for the Predator 30 now. But yeah, any boot with a tongue, I'm not using that rear lace hole, man. Like I like that freedom. Like I feel like my ankle's gonna snap too a lot of times because again, I live in Texas and the ground is fucking hard.
Yeah, it's
But
terrible.
yeah, I love that boot, especially that white pair. And I'm not brave enough or good enough to wear Zidane's gold ones.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add on?
No, I do like the aesthetics, like you said. I think we're slowly getting back to that, is what I'll say. Especially with the Pred 30, I think Adidas has figured out through possibly all their remakes that this is actually what people want, and so they're starting to go back to that, at least aesthetically. The technology's changing. The Hybrid Touch 2, that's like going to be the standard, the baseline now going forward. But I mean, like it's awesome. It's kind of the one, like we've talked about the Tiempo 10, right? And how it's just completely different than everything that came behind it. And I feel like the Predators actually do a service. Well, at least they are now, because I know they really got away from that with the Freak, but I feel like they're actually starting to kind of come back around to what they were doing.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like I told you before. I feel like the 30, especially right now, or whatever this model is called, but is the spiritual successor to the Mania, which again I've always touted is not only I think the best Predator of all time, but I think it's one of the best boots of all time. So I think that Adidas has struck gold with this new Predator for sure. But I'm sure they'll find a way to fuck it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep moving on. Let's keep trying. So now we're at a joint fifth with 21 points. So we were going 13, 14, 15, 16. Then we did 18. Now we've jumped up to 21. So it's starting to get a little higher. For joint fifth, we have the Nike Mercurial Vapor 8. And then it's one of its brothers is the Nike Hypervenom Phantom 1.
Ooh.
Yeah, which I thought was going to be way higher on the list than it was.
That would be like number two or three.
Dude,
is where I would
people
have put
have
that boot.
so much remember berries with that boot.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that boot is that good. This is another, like, the Phantom 1, it is a good boot, don't get me wrong, but I think it's one of the most overrated boots. Like, you have graduation goggles with that boot, bro. I'm telling you.
Mm.
And I think that the Hypervenom Phantom 2 was so ass.
Yeah.
People feel even stronger about the Phantom 1.
Hypervenom Phantom 1 was like 2013, 2014, right?
Yeah, that's when Neymar became like the poster boy. Like a big name.
Dude, always Liverpool. Daniel Sturridge had a pair of those, and like he came back, I want to say around like 2019 and put him back on just to try to regain his form.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Zlatan was a big face of them as well with Neymar.
Mm-hmm.
And like again, the branding was super. I think that was that when he moved to Barcelona. Is that when the Hypervenom 1 came out?
When Neymar moved up, yeah, I think he moved to Barcelona in 2020. I think he moved in 2013. No, yes,
yeah, 2013, 2014 season.
Yeah,
I think that's right, and that's when this boot came out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, again, it's not. Don't get me wrong. It's not a bad boot. I'm not saying that, but it's definitely not. Like some people hold that boot in like god tier level, and I don't see it at all. Like at all. Let me see.
Go ahead.
What's
cool about that boot? Sorry, is the Hypervenom 1 is like so far ahead of its time that I feel like you could take that boot, place it in this, 2024 era, 10 years later, more than 10 years later, and you could slap a different sole plate on it, and people would love it. Like it would be like if they had never made that boot, made slight modifications to it, and put it here where we are now in 2024. I think it holds up.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point to put. I think that the only thing for me that I don't even think that the sole plate was the issue. To me, the biggest issue was the upper. It just didn't have any structural rigidity. Like you
Hmm.
would hate wearing that boot because you would feel like your foot is sliding over.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
mean, there was nothing to hold your foot, and I think that's why two the Hypervenom Phantom 2 version 2 to me is the better one because they put those Brio flywire cables to
Hmm.
help hold the upper, and I think that solved all the boots issues right there.
Hmm.
And then we can talk about the Vapor 8 again. You're not a Vapor guy. I don't think you were wearing.
Well, I think I tore my ACL in the Vapor 7s, and I think I said I'm done. I think that was it for me.
Yeah, that's fair. No, the Vapor 8, again, it's one of my favorites. I think out of all the Vapors, it might be actually my favorite. Again, that's just where they started the super aggressive sole plate. The colorways were bangers. Like I always remember the Euro 2012 pack, the Clash pack, the white with the pink, and it had like the
Oh,
black
yes.
swoosh on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Instant classic. But my favorite one was always, it was like this blue lagoon color with like an orange swoosh. And I just remember Ronaldo and Ozil wearing them at Madrid that season. And Jay just a great looking boot. And they were a good boot, man. They were a great boot. And I think that's the first Vapor that had ACC technology on it from Nike. And I think it was that colorway, that blue lagoon one.
I'm trying to remember ACC. That was around like 2012, right? Because I want to say they started putting ACC on Tiempos as well. They put ACC on all their boots.
On all of them, yeah. So like the T90 Laser 4 started getting it. The Vapor 8. I think it was the CTR 360 was the one that like brought it.
Mm-hmm.
And then would it have been the Legend? I think it would have been the Legend 4.
Legend 4. Yeah, Legend 4 was the first Legend to have ACC. And that was a big promotional tool for it as well.
Yeah.
So,
I still want to know. I honestly like want to go into Nike and figure out what ACC really is. I really do.
Like if you look hard enough, you can see it.
You know what ACC for me is, honestly? It's to tell me which boot is the elite model so I don't buy the wrong one. Like that's literally all I use that brand for.
What's funny is it used to be back in the day when ACC first came out, it was posted on your boot somewhere. Like
Yeah.
the Tiempo was on the tongue, it might have been on the side, and it would just like let you know, like, hey, it's got this. Don't worry. You bought, your money's well spent here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I don't know if ACC is even a thing anymore.
Just saw a picture of on Instagram of the Phantom GX2 Pro, and I saw ACC on it, and it was it was like a joke, like, oh look, ACC's on the Pro model now.
Oh, I was gonna say, oh shit, now I'm not gonna know.
Yeah, they've
caught on.
They've caught
on.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay, let's keep moving. So, number 4 is this is a good one. The Nike, it had 23 points, so again, jumped up 2 points. Is the Nike Tiempo Legend 5?
Yes. People argue that this is the best one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know this is a lot of people's favorites.
A lot of people's favorites. Because it just fits, dude. It was like one of the best meetings of like modern classic, and the leather was so good, dude.
Yeah. Did you have to go up half a size in these?
I think I was true to size, but
you were true to size. I think I went up half a size in these. I know the sizing was weird.
I know the threes were tight, and I think the 5s were tight, but it was still true to size.
I remember this one, especially because of the weird color blocking colorways that they did. Do you remember that? Like, I remember they launched with that orange, like, weird sand one, and then they did the white and black, and then the blue and orange. I remember those. But I remember, like, that was a very distinct, like, if you saw a Tiempo, like, you would know exactly it was a Tiempo. It didn't look like anything else.
No. And now. But
dude, I don't want to talk about the Tiempo now.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to talk about it now. I don't talk about it. R.I.P.
The 10 did not make it on here. Don't worry. But yeah, what else can we talk about with the Tiempo? I thought that sole plate was super good. I remember, like, from the midfoot down to the heel, it was nice, stable, pretty rigid. And then I remember, and the forefoot and the toe box, it bent so well. Like, it had enough snapback, but nothing crazy.
Yeah. I wish Nike made remakes. Like, they would make so much money if they just took a page of Adidas playbook and just like give us the 5s. You give us some. I mean, even if you want to go more modern, you give us some 7s. But I digress, dude.
Well, just say that.
Kill it. 5s.
I want you to remember what you just said, and I'm going to ask you a question, and we're going to talk about this. Okay. So let's keep going on. So we both love the Legend 5. Think it's well deserved.
Mm.
Okay, so now we're gonna go. We got a joint third, another joint one. Okay, but this is the last one. Okay, so in third place, 25 points each. We have the Nike Mercurial Vapor 13,
mm-hmm.
and then we have the Adidas Predator Mania. And it absolutely blows my mind that people hold those on the same pedestal. Kinda.
People really liked the Vapor 13. First time I remember a Vapor really differentiating itself, and I think people that had wide feet could actually wear that model. If I'm not mistaken, that was one of the wider Vapor models.
The super comfortable Flyknit one that everybody liked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody liked it.
Because the 12 was a little bit firmer, and the 13 just fit everyone, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 13, it was comfy. I'm surprised they didn't keep that material because people really liked that boot. I remember there was the launch colorway, the blue one, I almost need to look this up.
Yes. It was the blue.
It's such a distinct, like blue and white colorway.
I'm trying to picture it. I can see part of it in my head, but I can't remember what the graphic looked like because I keep going back to the 12. What was the graphic? Oh, it's where it said Mercurial all over it, like towards the midfoot to heel.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how the 13 was.
Yeah, it was a good boot.
That was a good boot. And you know what? I think that another good thing about the 13 was it had a ton of great colorways.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked about it. I think last week, the Future DNA pack, the one that looked like the Superfly one, absolutely crushes it. The Dream Speed. The Dream Speed.
Yes.
I remember dude. Noah had a video about them, and I remember that boot, the Dream Speed, and it was like, even though it's Ronaldo's boot, other people were in it, but Bruno Fernandes was wearing it. And I know some people said they didn't like it because it looked like a tire had ran over the boot multiple times.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes. I know exactly which boot this is. Yep.
But that Dream Speed 3 colorway, oh, dude, that one crushes it.
Dude, that one was pretty cool.
Absolutely crushes it.
I'm shocked you didn't do this in your Franken boot. Like, this seems right up your alley.
It is, and I told you before, man. Going back and even listening to myself talk about that Franken boot, I was like, God, this is awful. This is hideous. But I guess it goes with the name Frankenstein, so whatever. But yeah, again, great Vapor. I know a lot of people rate it. It's just not for me.
Yeah, it makes sense where it is on the list to me. It really does. That's one I thought people would actually put like quite high up. So
yeah. Well, and it's also interesting to me too that this is one of those times where the 13, like everybody loves it. Some people would say it's a 10 out of 10 boot. And then Nike pivoted to the 14, and people were actually like legitimately pissed with what they did to the 14. Like, I know some people like Modric and some of those guys, Reece James really love the 14. But I know a lot of people that when they went to the 14, they were like, it's too stiff again. It doesn't fit. It's too narrow. Like, go back.
I don't know if this is the same time period, but after the 13, I think is when a lot of players jumped ship. Like, I remember Christian Pulisic was wearing the Vapor 13, and then at some point he switched to Puma. I'm not sure. Was the 13 the last Nike boot that Neymar wore before he like did like the King for a hot minute and then did the Futures?
Or was it was either
it could have been before that.
I think it's the 13. I think it's the 13 because I think the 13 has the shush and the yellow one. So yeah, I think you're right on that.
So it's like the 13, and then a lot of the players that were Mercurials kind of jumped ship. So I'm not sure if it had to do. I'm sure it had to do more with the money than anything because like you put money in your face and you're gonna wear. Okay, thank you. I'll put the Vapor 14 on, but.
And we talked about it, but it's very interesting that the correlation for the end of the Vapor 13 was the end of a lot of those players wearing Vapors and going off, like Pulisic, Neymar. I had somebody else. Oh, Eden Hazard. He was a big Vapor 13 guy, and then he never played again.
The 14 was so bad. He was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep eating. I'm barely gonna run anymore.
His knees were just shot after the 13.
Yeah. The Saudi wasn't scooping up players like for Eden Hazard to give up so soon. But
no.
Anyways,
No. Okay, let's talk about the Mania.
Um, Aesthetically, best looking Pred boot of all time to me.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. Okay. Okay, so this boot, I'm gonna rewind time a little bit. I have an older sister who played club in high school and everything, and my sister, the furthest back that I can remember to my watching my sister play was she had a pair of Manias. And I remember my sister absolutely beat the hell out of these Manias. I mean, she had like the electric tape holding the sole plate back together on the toe, like missing laces. One of the elastic straps didn't hold anymore. But I remember at the time my sister was just like absolutely bossing up the the midfield in a pair of black, white, and red Manias. And so that boot has just always kind of had like a sentimental value to me. And then you go back and you watch, Bex in his peak prime, where in the Manias you watch the Zidane goal in the UCL final in the Manias. Like, it's just such an iconic boot, bro. Like, it's so good. It's so good.
There are moments in time I feel like where like you remember that boot, that time, like everything. Like I don't want to keep taking this back to like the Tiempo, right? But that's why I think the 7 holds such a special place in my heart, because the 7s were the boots that were out when they won the UCL. And so for you to have like the Mania and just remember that, like your sister, so many memories. It's kind of what it's the boot itself, and then it's everything that happens around the time of the boot. And that's what creates the nostalgia.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I just like, there's certain things I love about the Mania too. Like, I think the Mania is the first one that had the elastic strap on the toe. Like, that is iconic in itself, because I know Bex had it on his accelerator. He was trying to do it, but it kept snapping. And then on his precisions, he did. But everybody else had Velcro. I think the Mania is the first boot that I can remember that had the elastic tongue, which again we've talked about before. Is one of the coolest.
I don't know why this is a topic for another time, but why is elastic cooler than Velcro? Like, why is Velcro so uncool? Like,
it's because it gets dirty, and when it gets dirty, it doesn't stick.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if like they had a way to make the Velcro tongues like not absorb a shit ton of dirt and mud, I wouldn't have any issue with it. But again, I like the elastic because I don't use the rear lace hole, so I can pull my tongue down even further. Like with the Velcro, it's like gonna be set.
Yeah.
But with that elastic, and just that little slap noise, it just hits.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, it's time to go to work. Like, pow, pop the boot. All right. Anyways, okay. So number 2, this one's near and dear to both of us. The Nike Tiempo Legend 9 made in Montebellunas. That made number 2 with 28 points. So it jumped up 3 points.
Could be.
I need you to talk about this boot. This is your time because you absolutely destroyed your Montebellunas. And I want people to know that because you wore them so much.
Yes. Well, and what sucks is like I had 2 pairs, but I wore that first pair out so fast. And like they're an amazing, amazing boot. And I probably should have rotated better, especially on like bad weather days. But dude, it was like just I never, you know how like sometimes, especially for people like us who have like a lot of boots, if you have a bad game in a boot, you're like, it was the boot. It wasn't me. I'm gonna put another pair on. I'm gonna put another pair on at the water break because I can't stand how I'm playing right now.
Yep.
And I'm like psychologically thinking like it's the boot. I'm not ready for. I never had an experience like that once. The Montebellunas. It was always perfect. It was like I've never felt something on my foot that just fits so well. And then it had so with the Montebelluna, instead of using the same Legend 9 sole plate, they had actually gone back to the Legend 7 8 sole plate, slapped that on the bottom, which I was a huge fan of. Huge fan of the Legend 7 sole plate, which made it even better. And like honestly, like the only issue with those is the durability. And I think we knew that going in. Like if you buy a pair of those, like untreated alligator leather, you know it's only going to hold up for so long. But like it's such a good boot, dude. Like it's just the best. It's the best boot I've ever worn.
So would you say that boot for you is a 10 out of 10?
Yes.
Really?
There's nothing. The lockdown, the fit, the comfortability, the sole plate, the lightness, like the cool thing too is on the Tiempo Legend 9, you had the foam at the toe, and they removed that for the Montebluna, only in that edition. And so you could actually feel the ball better. You could feel like the touch was better. The leather was thinner. Like your feel of the ball was just, it was incredible, man. It's honestly, I wish the Tiempo Legend 10 and the synthetic type leather that they use was like, if it felt like that, I would wear it. Like just, but you can't. It's almost like you can't replicate that feeling. You can't replicate that type of material.
Yeah, I mean, the Montebelluna leather especially, like I think that with time. Oh, okay. Actually, let me ask you this question. Okay, so Legend 9 Montebelluna is like peak Tiempo for you. We'll just say it's like peak boot, right? For the sake of this question. Okay. Are you willing to kind of take a step back and let the Tiempo go through some kind of like rougher iterations with synthetic to eventually get the synthetic to innovate enough to be close to, if not better than the Montebelluna?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Because
like, do you think it's worth it?
Like, do I think it's worth it for the Tiempo to fail to succeed? I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of summarize your question.
A couple steps back to eventually like short term loss for a long term win.
Yeah, I absolutely do, because
Really?
I stopped because, dude, it's not that big a deal. It, like, especially for people like us, where it's like, yes, I do hold the Tiempo like near and dear, but you've basically told me the line is over. You've slapped the same name on something that's not what that boot is. And so I don't mind trying other boots. Like right now I'm wearing the Copas as my main boot, because that's the closest leather feel I have right now to a modernized sole plate on the bottom. So if the Tiempo has to go through, like, let's say like 3-4 years even of rough patches, and I come back to something in 3-4 years, I try them back on, and I get that sensation of what the Montebelluna felt like, yeah, I wouldn't mind that. But I have a feeling that they may end it and rename it something else, because I have a feeling that the sales have probably dropped off from the 9.
You have a gut feeling?
Yeah, because a lot of what I've seen are people that, I mean, all the comments on it are pretty negative, but maybe us leatherheads just, we have a loud microphone. I don't know.
Yeah, and see, like, that's I guess the thing with the Legend 10, just while we're gonna finish off this part, but I don't hear anybody complain about the boot so much so as that it's just not leather. It's not to them. It's not a Tiempo Legend. Again, I think if they would have renamed it, I think that would have helped that boot a lot. But a lot of people, like, nobody's ever like, oh, it's giving me blisters, or oh, the sole plate's too weak, or oh, I can't feel. It's just like, it's not what like, that'd be like if all of a sudden the Mercurial became the heaviest boot on the market, and they were like, yeah, like, we're not about speed anymore. We're about, firmness to the ground. Everybody's like, well, this is not a Mercurial.
When you put it in that perspective, it makes me even more angry. Like, yeah, so you couldn't do that, but you're going to do it with this line.
Yeah.
I think that they should have waited till the Tiempo Legend 10, because it was the 10th iteration of that boot, and then you go synthetic, or you say this is the absolute last Tiempo that we're ever going to have, and then we're going to do something else.
See, part of me wishes that the Montebelluna wouldn't have been made as a 9, and that would have been the Tiempo 10. So even if it had a shorter lifespan, but like, instead of just the Montebelluna colorways, like, that was the Tiempo 10, and they just came out with different colorways of that one. And it's just like a super thin, like, it's a callback. It's a very simple boot, and there's nothing wrong with that. We'll finish off, give it in a bang of glory. And then when the Tiempo 11 comes out, or whatever else they want to call it, like you said, it's like, okay, fresh start. We did, X amount of years. We did 10 generations. It was great. Now let's let it ride off into the sunset with a great boot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you round off at 10. You don't round off at 9 and then change it in the 10th iteration.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. Like,
it's really weird.
Come on, Nike.
But I will say, okay, I've got it over here, and we need to talk about the reason that the Montebelluna specifically for me is not a 10 out of 10 boot. This piece right here.
Oh,
you didn't even. I even asked you. I was like, "Is it perfect? Is it?" You're like, "Yeah, dude. The fit, the feel. Like, you went on everything." This insole, not even the insole, bro. The leather that they used on top. This is the most dog shit insole
It's the
I've ever
slipperiest
worn.
insole.
Why? Like, and the regular Legend 9 insole is like phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if they were counting on that. If they were counting on if you like the Legends, you would have already bought a Legend 9. You would have already bought like the white neon orange colorway or the gray with the purplish blue. Oh my gosh, dude, that's like one of the best colorways.
I got that.
I love that. Yeah, and so all you do is freaking like, oh hey, I'm gonna get this because like obviously I'm a Tiempo fan already. I'm gonna slip out my old insoles, slip into the new one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think if that was your first pair of Tiempo Legend 9s to buy, then you kind of got screwed.
Yeah, I mean, not even grip. Dude, I've worn grip socks. Nothing helps that insole. Like nothing.
No, you just have to change it out. You have to.
You literally have to. And I wonder.
There's
and
no
I
other
wonder
way.
too if it's again. This is one of those moments where, in Nike's eyes, they say, "Listen, this is yes, it is wearable. It's a performance piece of equipment. But at the end of the day, like this is for looks. It's a special edition. It's our most premium thing. Like here, look at it. And if you're gonna play in it, more than likely you're gonna already have some sort of replacement insole, whether it's a Tiempo." A Legend 9 or another boot or Super Feet or
I think anything
Pure
from the
X.
7 on would have worked for that boot actually. So like, even if you had like a couple of generations old, you still could have put those in there. It would have been a little smelly, but you could have done it.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that's the only thing. Like that's what makes this boot like a 9.9 infinite.
Yeah,
9
so close,
is
so close.
Just that layer on the. But also while we're on the topic of the Legend 9. What did you think about watching like players get them and try? Nike. I know Nike was just like, hey, just try them out. But so many players sticking with them, especially through the World Cup. Like I know Jordan Henderson was a big one. Bruno Fernandes, who normally wears Mercurials, was even wearing these for a while. So do you find it interesting that Nike like made something so good that like pros just did not want to give it up at all?
Yeah, and it speaks volumes because I think during that World Cup, they had that World Cup edition, which was the purple and gold, right? And then instead of wearing that, like Henderson, and if there's like
Virgil van Dijk, I know wore them.
Virgil van Dijk, Tyler Adams for the U.S. kept wearing
Tyler
them.
Adams. I forgot. Oh yeah,
and it was awesome to see. It was like it made you feel like this is like if pros had a choice, like this is what they put on their feet.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
see, to me, that's like the best ride off into the sunset. Like, just finish out. The World Cup was at the end of the year. All these great players had a great tournament. That's how it should have ended out. All right. We're going to finish this off with number 1. Okay, so 10th place, the joint 10th place started with 13 points, and we kind of went up. We started skipping. The Tiempo Legend 9 MI had 28 points, okay? Number 1 jumped up to 36. So this boot was in its own ballpark by itself. And everybody who had this boot, let me see, I have it written down somewhere. Okay, so somebody had it in first place, somebody had it in third place, fifth place, fifth place, fifth place. So the people that had this boot really rated it, and it's the Nike Mercurial Superfly 4. Which doesn't surprise me, but does surprise me.
I would have sworn it would have been the Predator Edge. Like I'm like somewhat flabbergasted right now.
Dude, I got 3 pairs, okay? And there's a reason why I have 3 pairs, because that boot is great. And I'm just trying to spread its infinite gospel to people. And the good thing about liking shitty boots and boots that people don't like is I always can get them cheaper or like on sale for like a great price.
Yeah.
And I'll never complain about that.
Yeah. And I don't want to go off on a tangent because this is number 1, but if you have a boot that really fits your foot, like mine was the 442 for a while, and those would always go on sale because nobody ever bought them. So it was a great boot.
No, yeah, it's a great boot for sure. Okay, but let's get back. Number 1, Nike Mercurial Superfly 4. Talk to me about it. Tell me what your thoughts about this boot are.
I'm not surprised that people would pick this, but I wouldn't have put it at number 1. I don't know, man.
It's such an instantly recognizable boot, though. And again, so see, that's what's so funny is like I don't even know if I had this boot on my list. Did you? I don't think you had it.
I did not have it on my list.
I don't think I had it on my list, but that's why I stressed so many times it was so important how you put these boots on a list because it would affect where it ended up. And just because, I mean, I want to say it's because of one person, but I mean, this boot blew all the other boots out of the water. Like nobody had this. The people that rated it highly. Like, and I've had a pair of Superfly 4s. Actually, I've had a couple pairs, and it's a great boot. Don't get me wrong. But it looks more iconic than I feel like it performs.
Okay, so this was during the 2014 World Cup. Then
Yes,
that's when these were like
this is when
incredibly popular.
The first knit boot came out. It was these and the Magista Obra ones.
Okay.
So yeah, this was the start of knit.
Yeah, this was like the start of knit. This was when high cut collars got really popular around this time, right?
Yeah, this is what started them.
Yeah, maybe that's why it's so iconic. Maybe it was because like I remember thinking that it was kind of silly, like the high cut collars, but man, that really took off as a trend, and now we're kind of going the opposite way again. Speaking of trends,
yeah, but it's funny that you say that because like, let's see, 2014, I would have been
22.
Yeah, 22, 23, somewhere around there, and I remember the first time seeing the Superfly 4, and I thought it was the coolest fucking looking boot. Like I really did. Like I know that the collar does absolutely nothing, but especially at that time, I was like, I have to get that boot.
Yeah.
Like all the colorways, that boot is one of the first boots I remember, and the Magista, where every single colorway sold out almost instantly. And that boot I think was $300 and something when it came out. I think they were $325.
Holy cow, dude.
I think that they were $325 now that I'm thinking back. But they were plus $300, and every single pair sold out.
That's nuts. I mean, that's the power of, well, one, marketing, and then two, some like just a new aesthetic. Like I feel like new aesthetics can go such a long way if you do them in the right way. And that high cut collar was just like so different. You know?
And I remember like, with the Superfly 1, 2, and 3, they were honestly pretty bad boots. Like very cool, and it's like, hey, we're gonna try throwing like some new technology and stuff. But then after the Superfly 3, the boots took a break for a while, and then when they came back with the Superfly 4, like to me, this is what, and I referenced it last week in the podcast. This is why I think that having a separate name for the Superfly and the Vapor is so important, and them being such separate boots. Because because again, if you look at our list, Superfly 4 is number 1. The Vapor 10, which was the same generation Vapor, is number 10. So they're on literal opposite ends of the same list.
So the only thing that separates it is the aesthetic then, right?
Well, no, and the material at the time, see, that's what I'm saying. At the time, the Vapor 10 and the Superfly 4 are like worlds apart. Like it'd be like comparing like right now, like take away looks. Imagine if you compared Vapor 15 / Superfly 9 to a Tiempo Legend 10. Like that's how separate those boots were.
Okay.
Yeah, like vastly different.
So when did it transition to where it was Superfly just became essentially like the same exact boot just with a high neck collar?
The 6. So we had 2014 World Cup, then the 2016 Euros, we had the Superfly 5, Vapor 11, vastly different. And then the Superfly 6 and Vapor 12 came out, and that's when they turned into the same boot.
Okay.
And then they've been like that since.
So weird, man.
Yeah, dude. That's what I'm saying. All the other Superflies have always been like somewhat, vastly different than the Vapors. But then once they got to the 6, they like threw that out the door. And that's why I told you, like, with the Luna and the GX now, like I like that the Luna is the high cut, the GX is the low cut, but you have to make them different boots. Like I don't want the same boot with just a collar or not a collar.
Especially if it's a different especially if it's a different name. Like
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's just make it different, because then you're going to confuse consumers too. They're like, "Oh, I got the new," like, I don't know. It's so dumb from Nike.
Well, I think but see, I say that out loud, but then after saying it, I kind of think of how Nike is, and I'm sure that Nike's like, we don't want somebody who really wants a Superfly 4 but either can't fit in the collar or just doesn't like the collar to not get to experience that because of that color. So if the Vapor is the same as the Superfly, or vice versa, you know what I mean? So part of me wonders if that plays a part into it, and that's why they're
sure it does.
Hey, like this is honestly for like stocking and for purposes or whatever, but really we want you to be able to experience the boot either way, either it with a collar or without a collar.
Well, I'm sure it's cost savings too, because you were just talking about how that Superfly 4 was above $300, and like if you just make it the same exact materials on the upper, then you just add the high collar, and boom, like we can make it a little cheaper just because of production costs.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about production costs. Why do you think that they? I mean, I know it's because people pay it. That's the easy answer. But why do you think that they charge such a premium on the collar? I think it's like $25 different.
It's $25, and I think it's because people will. Like, I don't think it costs that much to make that much extra like knit material. But it's kind of like, I think that's the threshold of what people would be willing to pay a little bit more for. And even if you look at the Predator 30, going from the Elite model to the, is it called the Plus model, the one with the tongue?
No, it's just called the tongue.
The tongue. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's about $20. And so I think there's got to be some kind of market research analysis person that's like, okay, for the tongue, people are only going to be willing to pay an extra 20. Okay, for the high neck collar, 25, and we can get away with that. And if we go even more, we're going to see sales drop. And that's, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of cynical in my thinking there, but that's what it's got to come down to.
I mean, I'm sure I'm probably too optimistic, thinking like, oh, there's got to be this grand reason why, like, they're benevolent and this and that. But honestly, it's probably just like, hey, this is what we can get away with charging people, so why wouldn't we? That's the top 10, bro. It's really a top 18.
Yeah. So just ran a marathon, dude.
Yeah, dude. 85 different boots. We had 18 that made it into our top 10.
That was a ton of work for you. I appreciate
it. But it was fun. I got the idea, honestly. I should have said this at the beginning, but I'm a huge fan of the guys over on SDS podcast, and they play this game a lot, but they'll play it with like I don't know, top 10 strikers of all time, and so they'll ask people, and that can change the list, and it's really fun. And like I said, if we had more time and you really wanted me to go through it, I could tell you every boot that people put that only got like 1 point, but I don't think everybody wants to just
no, and I don't think so.
But again, I also want to shout out all the guys who took the time to send me a top 10. I know, especially like people like James, were just like stressing hard about this top 10. But it was fun, and I'm glad that we did it.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
Okay, so before we leave, I need to pull. Do you have any of the past episodes? Like, you can pull them up pretty easily in front of you.
Yeah. Give me a second.
Okay, let me pull mine up too. I was gonna say, just if you see any really good comments.
I don't think it's necessarily a question, more of a comment.
Read it out.
All right, so Gabber131, nice pod, guys. I got the GX in a DF and an AG sole plate, but went back to my GT2s because I prefer the stiffer sole plate, and I think the GX texturing is too sticky. These GX2/Luna 2 look sick. Love the textured upper, and good thing they make them in AG. But I'm concerned they stuck with the flimsy sole plate.
Interesting. I don't think I've heard somebody pick A, the GT over the GX/Luna, and B, to say that's too sticky. I've not heard that complaint yet. That's a very interesting.
Well, according to what I've seen so far, it's this new GX2 is only sticky when you need it to be sticky. They say that it's it'll grip more when it's wet, and it'll give you just enough when it's dry. So we'll see.
Okay, good one. Last one is just something that I thought of. If you could bring back one boot right now, and it would absolutely fit your foot perfect, like everything about this boot is custom fitted to you, it's gonna last you, what boot would you pick?
Any boot, and the durability.
Like it's gonna be like this one ultimate boot where like it'll fit your foot, it's shaped to your foot, everything, and it could last you the rest of your career if you want. But you can only pick one boot.
The Montebelluna would be the obvious choice here for me, because we just talked so much about it. Oh man, but the Tiempo Air Legend 1, man, that's classic. I had that in high school, and I really want that boot back. So I think I would pick that boot.
That's a good answer.
The Ronaldinho ones, the white ones. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's his like original pair, right? The white and gold, where he did the infinite crossbar challenge.
Yes, dude.
Yeah, that's a good answer, man. Oh, what a good answer. If I had to pick mine right now, I think I would go with the Adidas Predator Edge Plus. And with that, we're going to say goodnight, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Bootcast podcast. Colby, plug in your socials. Tell them where they can find you.
You guys can find me at Kicking with Kolbs on Instagram and at Kicking with Kolbs on YouTube. I'm going to try to get a video out this week. Kids going back to school makes everything a lot tougher, but we'll see.
We're going to start another channel called Dad Problems. My name is Justin. You can find me at Texas Cleat Collector. You guys can always message me. If y'all will do us a favor, though, before we get out of here, comment, like, subscribe. It really helps us out. I know every YouTuber in the world says this, but it's super important. If you guys have any topic ideas, please let us know down below in the comments. It would really help us out. I think we'll say goodnight, man.
All right.
Later, dude.
See you
Have a
guys.
good one.